Hi everyone, welcome to the Laser Channel where we learn, create, and share. My name is Greg, and in this video I am going to be making a huge project of this dragon using the WeCreat Vision laser machine and the auto pass-through accessory. Let's get to it. Before I dive into today's fun project, I just want to share with you that this video is being made because I have the opportunity to have some really fun, exciting equipment in the studio today, and I want to share my experience with all of you while I create a fun project. This video isn't designed to sell you on any product. I'm never going to tell you whether you should or should not buy anything. I leave that up to you. I'll just share what I'm doing, and you can make that decision on your own. Now, having said that, I'm going to be using different materials, different paints within this project. If you have interest in any of those for your own projects, I will have links to those projects or products down in the video description. Now, with that taken care of, let's get back to today's project. The whole idea of using this auto pass-through is because the project isn't going to fit inside of the machine, and this auto pass-through is going to open up all these new possibilities. Now, the way that this system works is the machine sits on top of the auto pass-through. This auto pass-through does have a cable coming out of it because it does have a motorized drive in the front to shuttle the material back and forth. And this motor cable plugs into the rotary or accessory port inside of the machine. Once we're inside of the Make It software, I'll simply select that I'm using this accessory, and the software takes care of everything else. This will be all pre-calibrated, and I don't have to worry about doing anything except creating my project. When I'm utilizing the auto pass-through, it does take the work width of the machine and it makes it a little bit narrower. In fact, it takes it down to 14.9 inches, and that has to do with when the laser head focuses, it has to go much, much lower. In fact, it's sitting in the area where it has the material trays, so that area is a little bit smaller, and that reflects in a slightly smaller width working area. However, when we look at the actual accessory here, we're going to have 137 inches to work with, and that's going to be over 11 feet long. So that's going to really open up a lot of possibilities for projects. Today's project, though, is going to be making this board here into that dragon. This board is going to be 1 foot wide and 4 feet long. This is going to be 1/8 inch press board. I found today's project graphic at pixabay.com. Pixabay.com is my favorite website for quality, free graphics for personal use. If I do find something within the Pixabay website that I absolutely love, I always have the option of directly contacting the artist and getting a license agreement set up so that I can use their image on a commercial project. Going back to my example piece, we're going to see that I simply engraved the wood, but for this much larger project, I actually want to go and jazz it up a little bit. So in just a minute, I'm going to take my project board outside and I'm going to apply some different spray paint to it. Now, when I apply the paint to it, I don't want to put just a solid coat down. What I want to do is actually create a texture with color. And to do that, instead of holding the can at the normal distance from the material, I'm actually going to increase the distance out and actually kind of wave the can around in kind of a random direction. That way the work material is going to get some darker spots and lighter spots, and then when I switch over to a different color, I'm going to fill in those lighter spots but spray lighter in the areas where I had a darker color from the previous coat. This creates a really neat color texture. It also means I'm spraying the paint a lot lighter so it dries much quicker. And to really give this project a really good kick, I am going to finish off with a light coat of some gold metallic paint, and this is going to add just a tiny little bit of shimmer to the project. It's going to really make it stand out and look really, really awesome. While the paint is drying on my project material, I'm going to use this time to set up the Vision laser machine and the auto pass-through accessory. Now this accessory does start to take up some space, especially when I start taking the material supports and I attach them to both the front of the machine and to the back. And as we can see, my work table here is literally only this wide, and it's not going to fit the accessory with these material supports. So the next best spot I have to set it up in the studio is actually going to be on the floor in front of this table. Not only does it have the room I need, but the floor is also pretty flat, which is also another requirement when setting up the auto pass-through accessory. Here we'll see I'm placing a backer board underneath. The machine does come with it, but I also have this large sheet of aluminum that works just as well. So for this video, that is what I'm using. Material extensions, there's a slot at the end here and those slide in. And of course I can add on as many of these as I need. Now ready to get the material set up inside of the machine, there's going to be two things I want to check out. The first one being is that the Vision laser machine is properly aligned up to the auto pass-through. I want this surface to be even with this one. This needs to be a nice even gap, which I have. And the second thing that I have is I'd like to make sure that all of these support bars inside of the machine are properly seated, which they are. And I've also got a tip for lining the material up inside of the machine, making sure it's perfectly square. And I'm going to just push this in by hand. There's a little ledge back here that is square to the rest of the machine, and I'm going to lift my material up onto that ledge. And this way I can also center the material up and make sure that it is properly squared. This looks good, and now I'm going to adjust the top roller and start pinching down on my work material. Once I've got the proper pressure set, there's a little indicator on the front of one of the pinch rollers giving me 3 different pressure level indicators. This looks good, and now I'm going to manually adjust the bottom roller and back feed the material out. And I'm going to back it out so I've got about 4 inches of material still sticking inside of the machine. That looks good. And now we're ready to hop inside of the Make It software and check out the graphics and the settings for this project. We'll see that I've got my graphic loaded in, and I can zoom back a little bit and we'll see that I still have plenty of space that I could use for a project. Just know that the longer the project you have, the longer your project runtime will be. I'm going to hit refresh for the camera so we've got a nice view of the material fed inside of the machine. And I'm going to Control A to select everything on my graphic and get this in there just right. We're pretty close for now. And now I can hit the autofocus, and at the end of that, it will snap another photo, and I'll make sure that I have this properly sized so it fits just right. There's our new image, and I'll Control A once again and make a slight adjustment here. And that should fit. That should fit within the confines of my work material. Now, speaking of the work material, I made sure that my work material was another 10 inches from the very bottom of my graphic, and that is because there's going to be a distance between the drive rollers and where the laser head will actually be doing the engraving, and that distance is about 10 inches. And I'll click on this black layer. We're going to see it's set to fill engrave, power level of 75%, and a speed of 200 millimeters per second. We'll also see that I took the line density from the default of 100 and I cut it in half to 50. This is effectively going to take the engraving time and cut it in half. Once again, the bigger the project, the longer the project engraving time. When I click on the red layer, we're going to see this is going to cut out the outline, power level at 85%, and a speed of 10 millimeters per second. I recommend when using the auto pass-through to try and get this done in one pass. I'm happy with the way everything looks, and I'm ready to hit the start button. I have an estimated time of 1 hour, 32 minutes, and again, if I had that line density from 50, if that was set at 100, this is going to take nearly 3 hours to do the entire engraving, so adjusting the settings has a huge impact on the overall engraving time. I'll hit send and get the other camera set up and do a time lapse of this, and I'll show you a couple segments of that and cue in some nice music, and I'll see you in about 1 minute. In just a second, we're going to take a look at the completed project just over my shoulder, but first I want to go back and take a look at the painted material that I used for today's project. This paint method with all the color blotches on it, before we run the project, it doesn't look like much, and it doesn't look like it would create a very nice looking project, but we're going to see in just a second, this color scheme really gets this project to really pop and stand out. Here's the completed project, and when I move this around, we're going to see that it's got a little bit of a shimmer. That's due to that gold flake paint. When we take a look at the rest of it, we have all these different blending colors that were patchy on that large board, but on this project, they blend together really nice, making this really stand out. After this project was done being made on the Vision laser machine, there is a couple steps that I did to really complete this project. Starting out with cleaning the smoke residue off of the top of that surface. I used some LA's Totally Awesome. I sprayed that across the entire surface, saturating it, including getting all the cutout edges, and then immediately after that, taking a garden hose and washing all of the cleaner off. I also flipped my material over, my project over, and I got the back side of it wet. Once everything was clean, I took a dry towel and I just dapped the top surface and the back surface off. I like to get both surfaces of the material wet. That way it dries evenly without any cupping or warping. I also wanted to make my project very unique, so I took some green acrylic paint and put 2 drops for the eyes of the dragon to make a green-eyed dragon. And to seal everything in place, I took some Minwax spray polyurethane and I applied 2 coats to the top surface and the outside edge. I even flipped the project material over and put a light coat on the back. Once again, I find that putting a sealer on the top and the back side of my projects helps keeping them flat without any warping or cupping. Thanks for joining me in today's project video. Let me know in the comment section down below if you'd like to see more video content on this auto pass-through. And don't forget to show this video some love by giving it a like, maybe subscribe to the channel, or ring that notification bell. Not only is it a great way to help support the laser channel and help it grow, it's an awesome way to connect video content like this with other great viewers just like you. Well, until we meet again in the next video, learn, create, and share. And maybe tape the props up to the machine so they don't tip over. Well, have fun and enjoy your laser machines until we meet again.